Good morning, boys and girls. It's good to be back with you again as we continue reading Because of Winn Dixie by Kate DiCamillo. I hope you're enjoying the book so far. It is just one of my favorites. I've read it so many times and I've enjoyed it every time. It's just a great book. Just recapping a little bit what had happened when we left off in chapters, like the chapters we read last week. Remember, Otis had told Opal that he had been in jail, and she was a little worried about this. She hadn't told the preacher. Who, you remember who the first person was she decided to tell? It's Gloria Dump, because she really felt she could tell Gloria Dump anything. And Gloria Dump is an older lady, and she's very wise. And I love what Gloria said to Opal. She said, "You know what? You can't really judge people based on what they've done in the past. People can change. Now you have to be careful. If he said he's been in jail, she probably needs to be a little bit guarded because she doesn't know why he was in jail." But Gloria was suggesting that she take Otis for who he is now, for who Opal has learned that he is now. And she also said about the Dewberry boys not to be judging those guys too harshly. There's a lot of people you got to think about. I think that's kind of an underlying message in this story, is about not judging other people. You never know what somebody has in their past that's maybe make them have a bad day, or makes them grumpy. You just don't know. So just always kind of keep that tucked in the back of your head. You just don't know what people are going through all the time. And not to judge people too harshly. Give everybody the benefit of the doubt to be a good person. Today we're going to start with chapter 16. So we left off with Opal is at the library with Miss Franny Block. And Miss Franny Block's about to tell her a story. Amanda Wilkinson walks in. Remember old pinch-faced Amanda Wilkinson? She's not very nice to Opal. Another person. Opal's kind of making her judgments, like, why does she's got a mommy and a daddy, why does she have to be so pinch-faced all the time? Opal doesn't understand that. She's like, gosh, she should be totally happy. We'll find out a little bit more about Amanda later. Miss Franny is going to tell them a story. A word, just one vocab word today, which is manufacture. Manufacture means to make. It could be in a factory, where it's made in a factory, but you're manufacturing things, making things. All right, chapter 16. Everybody's got their teeth brushed? You best not be showing up to my class unless those teeth are brushed. All right, page 104. Litmus W. Block was just a boy when the firing on Fort Sumter occurred, Miss Franny Block said as she started in on her story. Fort Sumter, I said. It was the firing on Fort Sumter that started the war. Oh, darn it. It was, sorry, this is Amanda talking. My bad. I'm going to go back, okay? It was the firing on Fort Sumter that started the war, said Amanda. Okay, I said. I shrugged. Well, Litmus was 14 years old. He was strong and big, but he was still just a boy. His daddy, Artley W. Block, had already enlisted, and Litmus told his mama that he could not stand by and let the South get beat, and so he went to fight, too. Miss Franny looked around the library, and then she whispered, men and boys want to fight. They're always looking for a reason to go to war. It's the saddest thing. They have this abiding notion that war is fun, and no history lesson will convince them differently. Anyway, Litmus went and enlisted. He lied about his age. Yes, ma'am, like I said, he was a big boy. And the army took him, and Litmus went off to war just like that. Left behind his mother and 3 sisters, he went off to be a hero. But he soon found out the truth. Miss Franny closed her eyes and shook her head. What truth? I asked her. Why, that war is hell, Miss Franny said with her eyes still closed. Pure hell. Now, that's not a word we use normally, but Miss Franny says it in the book. So now that you're getting older, you're going to read books that might have words in it that we wouldn't normally use. Just know when you are allowed to use words in here, and then words that you're not allowed to use. I don't want to hear you saying those words. Hell is a cuss word, said Amanda. I stole a look at her. Her face was all pinched up even more than usual. War, said Miss Franny with her eyes still closed, should be a cuss word too. She shook her head and opened her eyes. She pointed at me and then she pointed at Amanda. You, neither of you can imagine. No, ma'am, Amanda and me said at exactly the same time. We looked real quick at each other and then back at Miss Franny. You cannot imagine. Litmus was hungry all the time, and he was covered with all manner of vermin, fleas, and lice. And in the winter, he was so cold he thought for sure he would freeze to death. And in the summer, why, there's nothing worse than war in the summertime. It stinks so. And the only thing that made Litmus forget that he was hungry and itchy and hot or cold was that he was getting shot at. And he got shot at quite a bit, and he was nothing more than a child. Did he get killed? I asked Miss Franny. Good grief, said Amanda. She rolled her eyes. Now, Opal, Miss Franny said, I wouldn't be standing in this room telling this story if he was killed. I wouldn't exist. No, ma'am, he had to live. But he was a changed man. Yes, ma'am, a changed man. He walked back home when the war was over. He walked from Virginia all the way back to Georgia. He didn't have a horse. Nobody had a horse except for the Yankees. He walked, and when he got home, there was no home there. Where was it? I asked her. I didn't care if Amanda thought I was stupid. I wanted to know. Why, Miss Franny shouted so loud that Winn Dixie and Amanda Wilkinson and me all jumped. The Yankees burned it! Yes, ma'am, they burned it to the ground. What about his sisters? Amanda asked. She moved around the desk and came and sat. Wait a minute. Sorry, I think I skipped a page. What about, oh no, that's right. What about his sister? She moved around the desk and came and sat on the floor. So Amanda had been standing, but she's getting interested in this story. So she came around and sat with Opal on the floor. She looked up at Miss Franny. What happened to them? So she's eager to hear. Dead. Dead of typhoid fever. Oh no, Amanda said in a real soft voice. And his mama? I whispered. Dead too. And his father? Amanda asked. What happened to him? He died on the battlefield. Litmus was an orphan? I asked. Yes, ma'am, said Miss Franny Block. Litmus was an orphan. You remember how old he was? He was only 14, but he had lied about his age. This is a sad story, I told Miss Franny. It sure is, said Amanda. I was amazed that she was agreeing with me about something. I'm not done yet, Miss Franny said. When Dixie started to snore, I nudged him with my foot to try to make him quit. I wanted to hear the rest of the story. It was important to me to hear how Litmus survived after losing everything he loved. Can you imagine being just 14 years old and your whole family had died? Your mom, your dad, your sisters. Okay, chapter 17. So the story of Litmus continues. We're on page 110. Well, Litmus came home from the war, said Miss Franny as she went on with her story, and found himself alone. And he sat down on what used to be the front step of his house, and he cried and cried. He cried just like a baby. He missed his mama, and he missed his daddy, and he missed his sisters, and he missed the boy he used to be. When he finally finished crying, he had the strangest sensation. He felt like he wanted something sweet. He hadn't had a piece of candy in years, and it was right then that he made a decision. Yes, ma'am, Litmus W. Block figured the world was a sorry affair and that it had enough ugly things in it, and what he was going to do was concentrate on putting something sweet in it. He got up and started walking. He walked all the way to Florida. And the whole time he was walking, he was planning. Planning what? I asked. Why, planning the candy factory. Did he build it? I asked. Well, of course he did. It's still standing out on Fairville Road. That old building, said Amanda, that big spooky one. It's not spooky, said Miss Franny. It was the birthplace of my family fortune. It was there that my great-grandfather manufactured the litmus lozenge, a candy that was famous the world over. I've never heard of it, said Amanda. Me neither, I said. Well, said Miss Franny, they aren't made any more. The world, it seems, lost its appetite for litmus lozenges, but I still happen to have a few. She opened the top drawer of her desk. It was full of candy. She opened the drawer below that. It was full of candy, too. Miss Franny Block's whole desk was full of candy. Would you care for a litmus lozenge? She asked Amanda and me. Yes, please, said Amanda. Sure, I said. Can Winn Dixie have one, too? I have never known a dog that cared for hard candy, said Miss Franny, but he's welcome to try one. Miss Franny gave Amanda one litmus lozenge and me 2. I unwrapped one and held it out to Winn Dixie. He sat up and sniffed it and wagged his tail and took the candy from between my fingers real gentle. He tried to chew on it, and when that didn't work, he just swallowed the whole thing in one big gulp. Then he wagged his tail at me and lay back down. I ate my litmus lozenge slow. It tasted good. It tasted like root beer and strawberry and something else I didn't quite have a name for, something that made me feel kind of sad. I looked over at Amanda. She was sucking on her candy and thinking hard. Do you like it? Miss Franny asked me. Yes, ma'am, I told her. What about you, Amanda? Do you like the litmus lozenge? Yes, ma'am, she said, but it makes me think of things I feel sad about. I wondered, what in the world did Amanda Wilkinson have to feel sad about? She wasn't new to town. She had a mama and a daddy. I'd seen her in church with them. You never know. You never know what other things people might be going through. Well, there's a secret ingredient in there, Miss Franny said. I know it, I told her. I can taste it. What is it? Sorrow, Miss Franny said. Not everybody can taste it. Children especially seem to have a hard time knowing it's there. I taste it, I said. Me too, said Amanda. Well then, Miss Franny said, you've probably both had your share of sadness. Now what does Opal have to be sad about? Think about what it is she has to be sad about. She's got a few things. Well, I had to move from Watley and leave all my friends, I said. That's one sadness I've had. And Dunlap and Stevie Dewberry are always picking on me. That's another sadness. And the biggest one, my biggest sadness, is that my mama left me when I was still small, and I can hardly remember her, and I keep hoping I'll get to meet her and tell her some stories. It makes me miss Carson, said Amanda. She sounded like she was going to cry. I have to go. And she got up and almost ran out of the Herman W. Block Memorial Library. Who's Carson? I asked Miss Franny. She shook her head. Sorrow, she said. It's a sorrow-filled world. But how do you put that in a piece of candy? I asked her. How do you get that taste in there? That's a secret, she said. That's why Litmus made a fortune. He manufactured a piece of candy that tasted sweet and sad at the same time. Can I have a piece to take to my friend Glory Dump, and another one to take to Otis down at the Gertrude's Pets, and one for the preacher, and one for Sweetie Pie, too? You may have as many as you want, said Miss Franny. So I stuffed my pockets full of litmus lozenges, and I thanked Miss Franny for her story, and I checked out Gone with the Wind, which was a very big book, and I told Winn Dixie to get up, and the two of us left and went over to Gloria Dump's. I rode right past the Dewberry's house. Dunlap and Stevie were playing football in the front yard, and I was just getting ready to stick my tongue out at them. But then I thought about what Miss Franny said about war being hell, and I thought about what Gloria Dump said about not judging them too hard, and so I just waved instead. Now, do you think she just wanted to wave? Probably not, but she's thinking about what Miss Franny and Miss Gloria Dump said, so she just waved. They stood and stared at me, but when I was almost all the way past, I saw Dunlap put his hand up in the air and waved back. Now, what do you think his reaction would have been had she stuck her tongue out? Think about that. They might have started yelling things like, oh, you're going to the witch's house, or something. But she made the first move in the right direction, and just waved. And so he waved back. Hey, he hollered, hey, Opal. I waved harder, and I thought about Amanda Wilkinson and how it was neat that she liked a good story the same as I did. And I wondered again, who was Carson? And that's the end of chapter 17. So a couple things to think about in here. We've learned the story of the litmus lozenge and of Miss Franny Block's great-grandfather, Litmus W. Block, I believe was his name. Now think, if I was giving you a bucket item, what would your bucket item be this week? Probably a piece, like a Jolly Rancher or something like that, a piece of hard candy. But the candy is very strange. It tastes like root beer and strawberry, she said, but then it also tastes like sadness. I wonder what sadness would taste like. Isn't that weird to think about? There never really was a candy like that. That's kind of a strange thing to think, that a candy could make you feel sad. But that's exactly what the litmus lozenge did. So with Opal, she said, it makes me feel sad because I had to leave my friends. It makes me feel sad because the Dunlap and Stevie Dewberry are just mean to me. Makes me feel sad most of all, most importantly, because my mama left me, she said. And then Amanda, who Opal's just getting to know, said, it makes me miss Carson. Now, we're going to find out about him in a little bit, but maybe there's more to Amanda's story than what we know. So next time we meet, we'll be reading chapter 18 together. 18 together, okay? So you're going to make your chapter summary like you have been. Now, I know I had said you could just save these until the end and turn them all in at the end. I was hopeful that we were going to be able to come together at the end of the school year back at school, and hoping that I could collect these. But as we found out, it's in our best interest. Governor Andy says that we not come back to school this year. We're going to try and get rid of all these germies and hopefully be able to get back together in August. So we can't physically be together again, but gosh, I just think about you guys all the time. But if you want to go ahead and start handing in your chapter summaries instead of saving them, that would probably be the best thing to do. So you would have already chapters 1 through 15 with you that you can go ahead and start sending in, via email or whatever, however mom and dad want to do it. So, and then you can send them either daily or weekly, whatever works best for you. But just make sure they do get sent in, because that's going to be part of your grade, okay? The ones I've seen have been fantastic, but I did say to hang on to them. So those of you that still have them are just doing what I'd ask you to do. So, okay, I miss you guys, and I will see you soon. We'll be together again tomorrow, okay? Have a great day. Bye.